You're listening to 91.3 FM, WCOW in Worcester, Massachusetts, the Dr. Chris Radio Horror Program. If you can't listen to us live and listening to us recorded, hopefully you can check this out on our YouTube channel, which will be posted on later on in the week or month or so. Tonight on the show, we have a very distinguished guest on the show with us, calling to us to talk about what's considered to be one of the worst movies ever made, but in my opinion, one of the best cult films ever made in its own unique way. We have Jackey Neyman Jones, who played the young girl in Manos, the Hands of Fate. Most people might remember it from MST3K, but also it's recently been released by itself by Synapse Films.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks.
Now, Manos, the Hands of Fate. When people say it's considered to be the worst movie ever made, alongside like anything Ed Wood ever did, or Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, which was the Star Wars prequel, do you take that with a badge of honor, or does it hurt you?
I'll tell you a little story here that answers that. Manos, the Hands of Fate happened in 1966. I was just 6 years old, turning 7, and I was invited to be in it. And to me, as a small kid, it was like the best time of my life, you know, hanging out with my dad and being with the grown-ups and everything. When it was over, everybody, you know, well, we'll talk about that later, but it showed only one night. It showed the premiere, and then the theater canceled the run because it was so bad. And all the cast and crew kind of scattered and never talked about it again, basically. And but I held on to it, and the movie just disappeared for 27 years. And then Mystery Science Theater found it and put it on their show. And if it wasn't for them, it never would have been found. And because of it, my dad and I had some pretty fun little adventures because of the fandom of Manos, the Hands of Fate. You know, it was never a moneymaker for us because it was public domain, but it was a really fun thing for us.
And of course, it was kind of remade in a very silly way with Manos, the Hands of Felt. Did you ever see that?
Well, not only did I see it, but Rachel Jackson, who created Manos, the Hands of Felt, we met because at that time, I was invited to be part of a stage production that was pretty funny in Portland, Oregon. I live near Portland. And I actually got to be the voice of Debbie from off stage while my character is played by a puppet on stage. Mm-hmm. And then Rachel Jackson of Hands of Felt got hold of me and said she was doing a Kickstarter for her puppet theater up in Seattle. So I actually became one of the rewards in her Kickstarter for Hands of Felt. But then a couple years later, when we got together and created Manos Returns, which is the sequel to Manos, and Rachel Jackson is one of the co-writers and co-producers of that.
And there, of course, is now...
It's all very it's all very convoluted, you know.
Where
yeah, my dad was Tom Neyman, and he played the Master in the original Manos, the Hands of Fate. He also created all the sets and the props. And my mother sewed the costumes. And the Doberman, the dog, that was our family dog.
Oh, so your family was heavily involved with this movie, more than just you just having a part in it because they needed like a little girl for you know, to play the daughter of this couple who gets trapped with this cult.
Oh yeah, it's more like a family movie to me.
Yeah, the Manson family, but.
Yeah, kind of.
There's one distinct part in the movie that I know makes people cringe, and of course in MST3K they all scream at the end of the movie when you're seen with the mom and you're all in your little bride dresses and everyone's like, "Oh no, they're gonna do something terrible to that little girl."
Right?
It's because
Right?
you know what those women are there for. They're sex slaves, and now this little girl is involved in it. You're like, "Ah."
Is that creepy or what?
It's the
Yeah.
creepiest part of that movie, and you're involved in it. How old were you when you did this movie?
6.
Oh
And
my
I'll tell you,
god,
I sure was excited when my mom made me a little wife dress.
that
Because then
just
I got
yeah.
to look like the big girls, you know?
That's just absolutely crazy. This movie had a budget what like $300 or something? Is that true?
No, no. It was like 16,000. I don't,
Oh, okay. It
yeah.
actually had a little bit of money.
Yeah. But nobody got paid except for I did learn the wives each got $50 each.
Hmm.
And I got a red bicycle with training wheels, and the Doberman, our dog, he got a 50-pound bag of dog food.
Oh, that's pretty sweet. Now,
Right?
are you? How many other cast members are still with us today?
Oh, well, Diane Marie, who played my mother, who played Maggie, Margaret, she's still alive. And my dad passed away just 2 years ago this month. And
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm actually in contact with one of the wives. And Nikki Mathis, who is the vocalist on the soundtrack, she's still living, and we've met a couple of times now. And also, I just finished our film, Manos Returns. It's a sequel, 50 years after the original, where Debbie, me, I'm in charge of the lodge now, and my dad was still living. We actually got him filmed, so he gets to come back as the master in Manos Returns. And Diane, who played my mom, she's in it. So everybody that was living is part of this new film.
Today, as an adult, have you ever worn the robe? Have you ever had a female version of the Manos costume made for you?
I am an artist like my dad and a seamstress like my mom. I actually make custom designed or custom sized master's robes, signed and numbered.
Oh, that's adorable.
So yeah, I'm actually just about to offer them again. I only offer them occasionally because there's so much work. But yeah, I'm offering a few things right now, for the holidays and, those Manos Christmases.
The Torgo theme song, people have that as their ringtones.
I did that once briefly, but then it went off in Walmart and I couldn't shut it off, and I was just kind of embarrassed. So I took it off my phone.
Between Manos the Hands of Fate and your kind of return to this with these projects, and I think IMDb said 2014 you start having all these projects involving Manos. What were you doing after for so many years? What did you do for what is your career?
Well, I'm an artist. I'm a professional artist. I did faux finish interiors, high-end faux finish for about 25 years. And since then, I mostly live off my art, and I do Manos things, but I don't make much on the Manos stuff. Actually, I'm going to be traveling soon. I don't know if you've heard of the Manos restoration, but a few years ago, this guy, Ben Solive, found the original work print that had gone through the camera in 1966 of the film, and he raised, I think it was $46,000 on Kickstarter, and restored it. It's being shown in theaters around the country, and anyway, I want to go and do live commentary about the behind the scenes, because the restoration shows the accidents and mistakes so much clearer. You can really see what they were doing. Do you know that this film is taught in film school as everything not to do in filmmaking?
I've heard that before. Yeah, I've not taken a film class myself, but I've had several friends say, and they showed us Manos: The Hands of Fate, and it was the actual movie, not the MST3K version. I was like, oh no,
Right.
how did you get through
And
it?
Right, and that's what the restoration is. And it's funny, when the restoration came out, I thought, well, how does that work? If you make this terrible movie look better, does it cancel it out? And it doesn't. You can see, like, for instance, I'll give you a hint. When my dad, the master, holds up Torgo's hand that's on fire, if you look behind him in the restoration, you can actually see the can of lighter fluid.
Oh yeah, and then apparently, if you're not watching the MST3K version, because they had to pan and scan like the movie for the
Yeah.
bots and Joel in order to watch it, you can see like a crew member in at least two different shots.
Oh yes, You can see the microphone. There's you can see the lights on the highway, when they're supposedly 10 miles from the nearest road. Things like that.
Now, have you ever met Joel Hodgson, the creator of Mystery Science Theater 3000?
Yes, in fact, I wrote a book about being in Manos. It's called Growing Up with Manos: The Hands of Fate. And Joel Hodgson actually wrote the foreword for me. I met him a couple times at live MST events as well. Very nice guy.
Did he ever when he met you, did he like apologize for the ripping of the movie, or was he just like a big fan to be able to meet somebody from one of the movies that they not parodied, but riff. I guess the word is always riffed, because Mike Nelson, who was a writer on the show, and he played Torgo in the Mike Nelson played Torgo in the segments of MST3K where Torgo was a recurring character, and then he went on, of course, host MST3K, and now does riff tracks. They call it riffing when they do what they do. They call it riffing. And of course, the new season of MST3K just started recently on Thanksgiving.
Yes, in fact, I didn't mention, just today, I saw this article in Rolling Stone magazine about the new MST, and they actually mention Manos and give a link to the Manos MST version of the film. So that's cool. We were mentioning Rolling Stone.
That's interesting. That's for a movie that it would never have been known about, except with the exception of MST3K. Now, the version that you said that's going in the theaters, is that like connected to what Synapse did recently? Because again, Synapse just recently released it on Blu-ray like a year ago, right?
Yes, it is that. It's that version. It's the restored version. Now, when Synapse sells it, it has a lot of extras, and my dad and I are in some of the extras. So that's really fun.
Do you have a commentary on it? I don't have the Blu-ray here with me.
Yeah, we did some commentary. There's one part where my dad and I actually sit and watch Manos: The Hands of Fate together for the first time in over 50 years. And that's really fun. Because at one point my dad says something like, "Oh Lord, this is terrible."
What's an interesting secret about the film that very few people know about that you might not have shared yet?
A secret about the film? Oh, gosh, well, I don't know that there's any secrets left. If people read my book and follow along. I write a blog. I've been writing a blog for about 6 years. Called Debbie's Manos. So there's all my stories on there. But I will say that there's some new projects coming that I'm excited about, and I can't say a lot about, but one of them is a comic book, and another one is a web series. And what else? I know there was something else, but the Manos world just stays alive. It's crazy. It just keeps going. So I'm there for it. whatever happens, I'm there.
When the movie wasn't that big of a hit, did it really impact your dad badly? Because I mean, this was like, he's the star.
Right. Well, it was more than that for him because in El Paso at that time, he was very heavily involved in the Festival Theater, which was a community theater there, and which had the theater and art of El Paso. Still, the culture is very, very strong. And my dad was kind of a rock star of the theater, and he did art shows, and there were many things written about him in the newspaper by a couple of the cultural writers. And when Manos happened, there was virtually nothing written about it. The cultural writers, the people that were putting the social media out at that time were very, very kind, not only to my dad but the other actors. They knew that it was a mistake, so they let them live it down as quietly as possible.
Who currently owns Manos? Because I know that there was some copyright problem with the film for a long time, right? And that's why MST3K was able to do it, because they can only do public domain films.
Right. Well, the only problem was that Hal Warren's son, Hal Warren was the writer director of Manos Hands of Fate. It was always in public domain, and Mystery Science Theater could not have used it at all if it wasn't. But for a time, so here's the thing: the script had a copyright, but the film did not. And Hal Warren's son tried to claim that he owned it, and everybody needed to pay him. I mean, he harassed me for a number of years, but he went after the trademark. Then, when he lost the copyright battle, he went after the trademark, and that was just settled. He did not get the trademark, so it's as free as it ever was. The wonderful thing about Manos that I've seen over the years is not just the people that I've met at conventions and events and things that I've been to, but it just has this love and this camaraderie and this fan base that's so creative, and there's so many projects that have been inspired and brought to fruition because of Manos. And like Manos the Hands of Felt, like the stage production in Portland. There's 2 comic books. There's several other books. The book I wrote, the collaboration of all of us that came together to make Manos Returns. It's a fun world, so I'm glad that it's in public domain. It never would have seen the light of day if it wasn't.
There's a video game too, which is kind of interesting, and I thought that was always like fan art made, but then I had to do a bit more research before you came on the show and found out, oh wait, this is a legit video game that I had no idea about.
Yes. Oh, it's really good. I tried playing it. Not that I can play a video game, but I watched along with somebody who was very good, and it took him a long time to get up there to some of the higher levels. It was fun to see. Yeah, it's a good game. It's definitely tough when you get up to the higher levels.
I'm a bit of a hardcore gamer myself, and I work for a store that has a pretty large old school video game section. So I saw the graphic design for it, and I was like, oh, that's right up there with old school Nintendo.
Right, exactly. Well, you should play it and then let me know. Let me know. As a hard school, I'd like to know what you think of it.
I will have to I'll have to look into it because I don't have a. I think it's only available on the iOS device. What do the specs say? Oh, it is available on Windows. Okay, and Android. All right, I'll have to see if I can find it and where I can download it.
Cool.
When does the next Manos? Is it okay? See, a lot of people say Manos or they say Manos.
Well, Joel said Manos to begin with, but he's from, where? Minnesota. Where is he from?
Minnesota, yeah.
But Manos is a Spanish word, and the film was done in El Paso, so it's Manos is the word, meaning hands. So it's redundant. Manos, the hands of fate.
And when does the next project come out?
Well, I'm waiting to hear more about the comic book and web series. That's based on funding at the moment, so I don't know. And Manos Returns, we're looking for a distributor right now. But we have shown it in several theaters and a couple film festivals, and we're getting really great reviews from people. I just can't wait for us to be able to get it out there for everybody to see. And I'm working on a screenplay also based on my book, kind of in the style of the Disaster Artist.
That'd be interesting.
So, lots of things happening.
That'd be interesting, considering the Disaster Artist is, like along the lines of like Manos, when it's been considered like one of the worst movies ever.
That's right. Yeah. It has a similar audience, I believe.
Yeah, something like that. And then what's next? Maybe like Manos the musical?
That's been done in Chicago. It's actually called Rock Opera of Fate.
Okay.
And
yeah.
I have not seen it, but I heard it was really, really, really bad.
maybe that was intentional, or were they hoping for a hit and then it just got voted to be really bad?
I honestly believe I believe they were intending it to be bad. One of the reviewers, I read a review on it, and he's sitting in the balcony. He said something like that it was so horrible that he would have enjoyed it more if he had what the kids in front of him were smoking or something like that.
Well, if it ever comes here to Massachusetts, then that'd be legally okay. We just legalized marijuana, and you can buy and purchase it now. So,
well, there you go. Yeah, we're cool here in Oregon.
I have Manos. I have the Blu-ray from Shout Factory MST3K, and I have the Rhino double pack that came with Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. So
okay.
Two versions of it, but both are MST3K. But I think the Blu-ray actually also comes with a version of the movie that's not MST3K'd.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I know there is another version that that is not the one that Synapse has.
Correct.
And so it must be that one. It's the version that Riff Track showed when they did the live show a few years ago in Nashville.
Yeah, that might be the same version that Shout Factory released.
That's it. Yes.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show to talk about this this cult film and what you've been up to and what you're doing and still involved with it and everything, and about your dad as well. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. And like I said, you can find me on my blog, Debbie's Manos. Actually, if you just Google Debbie's Manos, my blog will come up. My Facebook. So, yeah, just say hey. I will. Okay, well, thank you so much. It was really nice chatting with you.
Definitely. Ask Zoe for a link to the Facebook page. She messages me on Facebook, so she can get you a link to from the top of the Facebook page, like right now, so you can share it. So you can let people know that we're going to be airing this around 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay, I'll do that.
Awesome.
I'll do that.
Well, you have a happy holidays, Jackey, and I will be in touch with you once it goes online.
Great. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.